Yeah. Sounds so good, wouldn't you agree?
Turn that shit up.
Shot for you, shot for me.
Only the real can relate.
Mike Fuego.
House of Fire.
Amazing Most. It's privy. This for that part of me that was styled by poverty. The hood in my veins now was clogging my arteries. It gave me vision, it also made it hard to see. I seen the artistry within the armed robbery. We got our 3-bedroom from a lottery, where you could catch a leg wound trying to find your key. You need that extra leg room when you find the V. Richer in the fansuits is what we bout to be. Brick sales, now every lobby got fish scales. Broke women who only hobby was rich males. You do 1, 3 to 9, you take a big L. Then they throw that in your face, now how that shit smell. I'm coming home better than I used to be. I know the man in the mirror gon' shoot for me. I don't really trust niggas, truthfully. It's the privy, no motherfucking juice for me. I played them project games. Before Bloods and Crips, we had project gangs. They tried to jump me after school, but my projects came. Somebody ate your food, you had to digest pain. Damn. We came a long way from cane dealing. The whole ways with the paint peeling. I swear to God I must have seen 1 billion, but never even saved 1 million. The roof gone, we could change ceilings. The good guys, they the same villains. I woke up, I had a strange feeling. Bitch, I'm feeling like Dame feeling. I'ma be my own boss, any cost. Fat boy, 10 chains, no shirt. Ricky Ross putting on for my city. Now it's time they get me off. Been too long in this city, where the fuck I'm getting lost? You from where I'm from? You done what I done? You love Noriega, you was eating on the run. Police hit the door, they just beat it like a drum. It took me out that zone, that weekend wasn't fun. Now I just laugh when I'm looking back. I used to have to crash where I cooked the crack. I'm on the stage with a crooked hat, feeling like Big when he said, probably in a city I ain't never been. Trying to get some pussy I was never in. Tell them motherfucking haters that I'm better than Kelly rolling in my future, it'll never end. Tell a #1 producer who's the better pen. From a soldier to a shooter to a veteran. Damn Q, it be stupid to dish you. Even your superficial flows are super official. That last bar there wasn't even mine. Yay sniffing, I just did a Yeezy line. Way different, and I can't be defined. Stay pimping, and you know I'm keeping mine. It's for that part of me. It's for that part of me that was styled by poverty. Yeah, it's for that part of me that was styled by poverty.
Peace. My name is Anthony G. Math Womble, and you're now listening to or watching Styled by Poverty, the Oddcast. This is our new season, our second season. You know, I got a lot of things to get into. It's been a while. I hope you're good. I hope everything in life has been treating you right. But I'm back, man. I'm back. Before I get into the title of this show, first I want to say rest in peace to my man Mega, who I just heard a few minutes ago pass away. He was a good comrade of mine, a good friend of mine, supported many of my businesses. So I want to say rest in peace to him. I also want to say rest in peace to my friend Annabelle from Brownsville / East New York. Very important friend of mine also, who just recently passed away. So I'm back, man. I'm back. Shout out to all of my S.STREET Media family, aka Promotions, Original Pacheco Productions, Everyone, man. Grindhard TV, Yeet Talks, The Millionaires, Who Styling Who with Kalia Clark, the whole tribe, a tribe called Bless, as I always say, man. So today's episode is called From Saul to Paul. And before I go into what I'm going to say, let me explain to you who Saul was. And I actually have this on my phone. I saved it. So let me go into who Paul is. Give me a quick sec. Shout out to all the supporters, man, who's been supporting the show, man. Without you, there'll be no Style by Poverty. Also, I'm rocking some Style by Poverty merch right now. You see my joint? You see the Style by Poverty there. Suspiria, a famous horror film that the merch is inspired. This particular line was inspired by that film. I have a lot of different pieces. I don't got a lot of different pieces. I have a few pieces, like 3 or 4 pieces that I've been selling. So let me go a little bit into who Saul was. Saul was in the Bible. His name was Saul and also Paul. Back in those times, a lot of people had Roman names and besides their real name. So Saul is Paul, or he didn't change his name to Paul. His name was Saul and Paul. I just looked it up. So I didn't know exactly what was going on with that. I just, I know the Bible story behind it. So let me go into a little bit of that. And so, before his conversion, Saul was fervently anti-Christian. In the book of Acts, we see that Saul was presented for the stoning of the first Christian martyr. He had previously persecuted the church, but was converted to its truth after seeing a vision of Jesus Christ. I got something else on that too. Paul himself describes his pre-conversion life as marked by breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. Saul studied religion under Gamaliel, a Pharisee and a esteemed rabbi. Paul also participated in a tent-making apprenticeship at some point in the years prior to his conversion. So Paul's life dramatically changed after encountering Jesus on the road to Damascus, which led to his conversion and subsequent ministry as an apostle. So he's one of the apostles. Paul, pardon me, I just noticed that I did what I did on the first episode. I didn't change over to the actual camera. So if you're seeing me now, I'm wearing a Style by Poverty sweater. You see, yeah. So I just gotta say that because I did what I did on the first episode, 1993. I didn't change the view to camera. So, I always make mistakes during this show. Why? Because I'm filming and recording at the same time. I'm the subject, but I'm also behind the camera. So I'll be making mistakes. We only did about a couple of minutes like that. So again, the title of the show is From Saul to Paul. So now, why did I name this episode From Saul to Paul? Since I haven't seen you in a while, one of the major things that has happened in my life is that I have now stepped away from the nation of gods and earths. I know that may sound crazy to a lot of y'all. I know that may sound hypocritical to a lot of people that know me, but it is my spiritual journey that I'm going through as a human. I was in the nation of gods and earths for 34 years. And the people that know me knows that it was very important in my life being a member of the nation of gods and earths. As you could see in many older episodes of Style by Poverty, I spoke about it all the time. My intro, peace of the gods and earths and all the positive people in the universe, things of that sort, doing the mathematics at the end. It was very important in my life. But I went through something spiritually last year. It started off somewhere around June or July. I started having a spiritual awakening. And I didn't understand what was going on. Actually, I didn't know that it was going on. I started studying my lessons real heavy, my Nation of Gods and Earths lessons, 120, real heavy around June and July. But I also started reading the Daily Bread during that time. No one convinced me to read it. It was something that was around my mom's table or in that crib, and I just passed by it all the time. And one day I just picked it up and I started reading it. But at the same time, I was going real heavy with my lessons. And people who know me knows that I know that I carry my lessons all the time. So I was studying my lessons heavily. But at the same time, I'm reading the Daily Bread. And the reason why I was what I thought was the reason why I was reading the Daily Bread was because I wanted to treat people better. I felt that I could treat people better than I was at that time. And so the Daily Bread is basically, how to live a better Christian life through stories, through like real people stories, but they attribute it to Bible verses. So at the time, I was really heavy doing both at the same time, 120 and reading the Daily Bread. I have the Daily Bread with me also today, and I will be reading something at the end of the show, coming from the Daily Bread. But so I was reading both of them at the same time, studying in 120, but reading the Daily Bread. And I said it to a few people. I believe AKA Promotions, Karen and her husband, I had said it to. I was speaking to Akandeli, AKA Greasy Amen, recently, or for my people from Waynesburg, Grump, recently, during that time also. And I had said it to them. But I wasn't really like putting it out there. It was something I was doing personally. And so I was studying my lessons, and I was reading the Daily Bread, and for months. At that time, I had just started working, which I'm going to go into later. I just had started working in Harlem, becoming a political canvasser, and I was, getting into myself spiritually and through mathematics. So around December, I stopped smoking weed. Another surprise for y'all. I know a lot of people is going to be like, get the fuck out of here. Yes, I stopped smoking weed. It's going on 3 months now. I stopped December 26th to be exact. And it had nothing to do with my spirituality either. I'm going to get into that later also. But I stopped smoking weed. And my mind started to become a little bit clearer. I've been smoking weed for 34 years, or around 34 years, and I've been studying the Nation of Gods and Earths, the degrees for around 34 years, which equals 7, which is always mathematics. And I was having epiphanies. I was having like a lot of inner thoughts going through my head about where I was at mentally, as well as life-wise, as well as spiritually. So I already felt a certain way, but I didn't know how to explain it. Also, I was kind of embarrassed that I'm even having these thoughts. A person who was very anti-God outside of myself, a person who was blasphemous. I'm going to say one of the most blasphemous people that you will meet at that time. I was kind of embarrassed that I was even having these thoughts. I felt hypocritical also. And a lot of these emotions that I was going through, I couldn't explain. But I felt something inside me changing. Almost a spiritual awakening. So, but I didn't tell anyone this. This is something that was personal. And so, around January, I went to Williamsburg, and I was, at the time I was looking for a job. I had put it on Facebook that I'm looking for a job. And during that period, I went to Williamsburg and I went to go check my man Sinatra, who I have spoken about. I probably, if I didn't see, I don't know if I spoke about him, but he's a very close confidant of mine. And so I came to Williamsburg. I was in his car with him. He's smoking bud. I told him, I don't smoke weed no more, which surprised him. And then I started speaking about the spiritual thing that I was going through. And I told him, like, the best way for me to describe this is Footprints, the poem, which at the time I didn't know it was a poem. And also, I never read the poem. It's something that I've seen in a lot of people's apartments, houses. I've seen the poem all the time, but I never read it. And so for the first time, I'm not gonna say for the first time me reading it is after the fact of this spiritual awakening. And so when I read the poem, it kind of touched me in a way that I can't explain. Again, I thought it was actually part of the Bible. I didn't know that it was a poem. I thought it was like Psalms or something. But one of the parts of the poem, if you haven't read the poem before, it's about like a man walking with God. And while he's walking with God, God is showing him his life. And there comes a point that when towards the end of the poem, when he gets to the part of like his troubles and his hard times in life, he see that there was only one set of footprints in the sand because they're walking on the beach, I believe. I'm assuming, I don't know. And he asked God, why there's only one set of footprints? And God replies, that's the time that I was holding you up. And it resonated with me deeply. it's kind of what I was feeling. And so the fact that I never read the poem before, but I had this connection to it, kind of perplexed me. It was something that I didn't understand at the time. So when I think about God and all the trials and tribulations that I've went through, a lot of these trials and tribulations I spoke about on the show, I always felt that I was protected. Or let's just say I didn't feel that at the time. But looking back in retrospect, I feel that I was always protected. At 15 years old, which is the 1993 episode, I attempted to kill someone. And I was facing 8 1/3 to 25 at 15 years old. At 28, 29 years old, being a predicate felon, meaning that I repeatedly did the same type of crime multiple times, I was facing 25 to life. Later, it was reduced to 7 to 14, then not reduced, but they offered me 7 to 14, then they offered me 6 to 12, and then later they offered me 5 to 10 years, and I took that, and that's what I went up north for, which was for drugs, for selling drugs. Also, my son, who is 22 years old now, he's never been in contact with the police, never been in trouble with the law. When he was born, I named him Easy before me actually experiencing life with him. I called him Easy, and it's actually an acronym for his name, Elias Anthony Stedman. Also, my mother, who is 85 years old, she had me at a later age. She's doing well. So many different things, attempts on my life. Also, so many times that I felt or I feel that God was protecting me, even when I didn't believe in him, even when I was blasphemous against him, even when I gave two F's about him. He always loved me. And so that is a part of my testimony. And so for these past couple of months, I've been praying, which I haven't done since me being in Catholic school, which was Most Holy Trinity, which even then I don't think that I really prayed, but I have one-on-ones with him. I have conversations when I'm either going somewhere or I'm in my crib by myself. I'm having these conversations with him. So back to me talking with Sinatra, he was the first person I told, and I kind of attribute that to him being like sort of a Peter type, like Jesus' confidant. And when I spoke to him that day, he didn't judge me. He didn't like laugh or nothing. He says, kind of, I can't quote him, but basically he was saying like, it will be you that will be chosen. The person who was most against him, living a lifestyle that wasn't, I don't want to say Christian, but that wasn't spiritual, because I don't claim no denomination at all. I'm just a person who believes in God and I believe in Jesus Christ. So many, back to him. So he said he would choose you because you were so fervent in you being against him that imagine him having a person like you that speaks for him. That's the person that he would convert. So going back to Saul turning to Paul, Saul was a person who was killing people in the name of Rome. It was said that he was killing Jews, which is his own people. And then he somehow encounters Jesus, whether it was spiritually or physically, I don't know. But he changes his name to Paul. So I went by the name of mathematics, and now I ask people to call me Anthony. And because it's my true self. The nation of gods and earths at the time I joined was needed. It gave me militancy. It gave me self-control. It helped me learn about my people. It helped me learn about society and what was going on with our people in society. When you deal with degrees, it's from a time when our peoples really needed to know about themselves. They needed the empowerment because they was going through hell society-wise. So the degrees was needed. And for myself, it was needed to put me on a path of knowledge and seeking knowledge. I am not a person who is now anti the nation of gods and earths. No, that's not me. 120 still holds the same weight with myself. It's just certain things that I might disagree with. But let me just say this. Even when I was in the nation of gods and earths, there was things that I disagreed with. So that's not new. But there's different things that I disagree with now. Now, one of the things that my evolution as a person, and then when it comes to degrees, one of the things that stand out to me is the fact of me calling a white man the devil. Now, if you don't know, my son is partially white. My son's mother is Russian and Dominican. She looks white, though. And so imagine me being anti my son, being racist against my son. This is where my evolving comes in. Imagine me speaking to my son saying a white man's a devil, and he has family members on her side that is white. It doesn't mesh with who I am now. And I wouldn't feel right doing that. I also have white friends. I've always had white friends. But I must have some good white friends because they knew what I was into and never stopped being my friend. But now as a 48-year-old man, I don't feel right saying that. Now, are there some devils in the world? Yes, there is. Are they just white? No, they're not. There's a song from Brand Nubians that say, the worst devil is the black one, and when you see one, you got to attack them. So, devilishment comes in all races. And I understand that. But Another thing that I disagree with 120 is not believing in a higher being. Now, as I said to Sinatra that day, I said, I'm the little G and there's a big G. And he said, yo, you should write a book on that. And so he also said to me, he said, yo, Math, people are going to dislike you no matter what you believe in. Pardon me, my stomach is growling. No matter what you believe in. And he's right. So that took away a lot of the fear of my evolution and saying it to people. We had a great conversation that day. And so he was the first person that I told. The second person that I told, and it really pushed me towards this new spirituality, was a close friend of mine. And I don't want to say his name. He's going through his life struggles. He's dealing with things in his life. But I seen him on a train. Maybe the next day, after me speaking to Sinatra or Stowe. And he's going through his hardships. And I walked on the train. He didn't even see me. I walked past him, seen him, and then I sat next to him, and he was surprised when I sat next to him. He was kind of in his own world at that time. And so he's speaking to me about, he was looking for something, and he needed directions to where he was going. And so I went on my phone and I Googled what he was looking for. And so we found the place that he was looking for. But one of the things that I said to him that day was, hey, yo, brother, man, I stopped using drugs. And he looked surprised. But I also told him that I stepped away from the nation of gods and earths and that I believe in God. And he was very surprised. A powerful moment probably for both of us. At that point, I felt something. I felt that this was my path. This is my path. And I believe when I went home that night, I told my moms. I told her I seen my friend and who she knows, and I told him that I stopped using drugs, but I also told her that I told him that I believe in God. And she was very surprised. She later tells me that it made her cry. And let me say this. The few people that I told in the initial beginning of my journey, a few of them cried. And so I knew what I was doing will affect people in a positive way. You know, I didn't know that I didn't know where this path would take me. And so what's crazy is a lot of spiritual things have been happening to me since then. One of the things that happened to me was one day I was sitting in my mom's living room. For those that don't know, I don't live with my cousin anymore. A situation happened, which I'm going to speak about also. But I'm now living with my mom since January of last year. So it's been like a year and 2 months. And so I'm in my living room and I hear a voice call me. The voice said, Anthony. And it was a feminine voice, I must say. And so I'm looking around, trying to see, maybe my mom's called me. So I got up. I believe I got up. And I'm like, no, nobody called me. She was asleep. But the voice was so clear. It was a clear voice. I heard it distinctively. And no, I'm not on drugs. And so I wasn't intoxicated or anything like that. The following day, I was getting ready for work. And something in my inner voice, I can't explain how I can't explain it correctly, but I heard someone tell me, or something tell me, you got to tell her. And it was clear as day. And what this voice or this energy within me was saying was, you got to tell her the truth. You got to tell her that you stole from her. And in my mind, I'm like, it's been so long, it was such a long time ago that it's not something I think about. And what I'm talking about is, when I was younger, and even as a young adult, I stole money from my mother. And so she never knew. At least I don't think that she knew. But in my mind is like, what's making me say this now? Why is this coming up within myself now? And it was clear, like it was something that it was either he was speaking to me and I'm hearing his voice, or it was an inner mind conversation. I can't explain it. But it was blatant to me. It wasn't something that I could just blank out of my mind. And so I'm having this inner conversation and outer, because I'm actually saying it to myself, like, I'm not ready to even go into that. And why even go into that? Like, this is not something that's a problem now. It's not something that, it's never been a conversation. And so it was almost like when you read the Bible, and I haven't read the Bible in years, so this is not something that, again, scripture have been coming to me out of nowhere. And so whenever you deal with the prophets in the Bible, a lot of times God wants them to go to places like Babylon and stuff and speak the word of God. And a lot of times the prophet is scared to speak to these people in fear, And so this was my Babylon. That's the best way I could describe it. This was my Babylon. And I gotta go speak. And I'm in fear of speaking to my Babylon, even though my mother's not Babylon. But to this person. And I didn't want to hash out something new with my moms. Like, I didn't want to go through this with my moms. Me and my moms, for the people who may not know, me and my moms had a real tough relationship. I love her to death, but we clash on a lot of things. The fact that I'm anti-authority, number one, is one of the major things. I hate people to tell me to do things. And whether it's my mother, whether it's the police, whether it's a judge, anybody, my stomach keep growling, pardon me if y'all hear that. So I didn't want to bring up a subject that we never even spoke about to cause any rift or any problems. But this inner voice, or if it was inner, could have been outer, I don't know. Again, I can't explain it. Was telling me that I must do this. And so I'm getting dressed, getting ready to go to work. And, you know, I leave the apartment and I jump on the elevator. While I'm on the elevator, I'm having this discussion with myself. And by the time I got outside the building and before I crossed the street, I said, I'm going to do it. Later that day, coincidentally that day, a friend of mine by the name of Facts on Wax had called me. Me and him had went in different directions after the Vandal Hour. Called me out of the blue or texted me out of the blue. We start talking on the phone and we're jonesing like this whole day. And he said he was going to pull up to the studio that particular day. So I teach classes now, podcasting classes. And that day I was having class. And so I had my students there and everything. And so he pulled up and I had my students there. And after the class, I'm speaking to them and I'm like, yo, I'm telling them this epiphany that I had. And when I tell them what the epiphany was, Fact said, I know you're going to tell her because you told us. And I said, you're right. So I went home that evening and my mom's was in the living room and I went inside my room real quick. I smoked a cigarette and I came out of my room and I went to her and I said, I gotta talk to you, ma. And she was like, you know, she wasn't expecting this. She's in regular mood. Yeah, what's good? What's good? What's going on? And I was like, I gotta talk to you about something. So I sat down on the couch and I told her. She didn't even know that I did this act. And so it surprised her. And we started getting into a, conversation. Pardon me. Excuse me. So we started getting into a conversation, a deep conversation. Me stealing from her opened up a door that we never opened up. And me and my mother had it was a couple of hours. I don't want to exaggerate, but I'm going to say it was definitely more than 2 hours of a conversation, maybe 3, 4. And we really going into like who we are in this conversation, why we had such a, why I kind of had animosity towards her, if that's the word I want to use, or disdain. I love her. I love her completely. But at a certain point as a child, I separated myself from her. And I don't want to go into that conversation. Maybe on another podcast I would. That's really, really for me and her. And she told me a lot about herself that I didn't know about. We basically introduced ourselves to each other for the first time. For the first time. Who we truly are. And why I was so separated from her mentally. And the conversation opened up a lot of wounds, a lot of baggage that wasn't so positive. But it was a conversation that was needed. I think now, after that conversation, she knows who I am and I know who she is. And we haven't had an argument. Well, we didn't have an argument before that at that time. But we haven't had an argument in a long time, which is very rare. Me and my mother debate, me and my mother disagree with each other all the time. But since that conversation and before, we haven't. It's an understanding. And after it opened up some wounds, man. It was a hard conversation. It wasn't a simple, easy conversation. It was 30 plus years of whys. 30 plus years of whys. There's things that I've always questioned. Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? And vice versa. And, you know, there's certain things that we don't do so much as a family because I had this feeling. And so she finally heard why that feeling exists. And I finally understood. She explained herself in a lot of things that I couldn't comprehend. But it gave us a high understanding of each other. And tears were shed. But at the end of the conversation later, she asked me for a hug. Now, if you know me and my mother, I really don't hug her like that. Let me get deeper with you. I don't even really say I love you to her like that. Do I, once in a blue moon? Yes. But as much as I should, no. And so, since then, I say it much more often. And so, going back to, the reason of me even having that conversation with her, it was the fact that I was having some form of revelation. Someone, and I'm going to say God, it's not even someone I know. God was telling me to speak to her. And he used me stealing to be the key to that door, because the conversation wasn't about me stealing. Actually, she kind of like pushed that shit to the side. That wasn't even like got her up, like nothing got her upset. I mean, like in angry, but she wasn't really, that really wasn't something that, she was mad about or something like that. But the conversation that proceeded after that was really the real conversation. And so God gave me that key. I've also had that conversation with my business partner, 1718 Sosa. And for those that may not know, we disagree on a lot of stuff also. But me and him had a 4-hour, 5-hour conversation. And really a real powerful conversation. And if I didn't step into this new me, into this new spiritual self, these are conversations that would never been had. So God is working through me and giving me these revelations, these epiphanies. And so a lot of people I've been going to, having conversations or speaking to about things that I would never have spoken to them about. I have apologized to people who I speak to normally. And it's not even, we're past whatever I did or they've done, but we never had that deep conversation. And so it's almost like an alcoholic that goes to AA and they say, like, you got to make amends. Basically, that's what I was doing. But it's something that didn't come from me. It came from a higher plane. And so from Saul to Paul, it is from mathematics to Anthony. Mathematics is my creative name still, and I put a lot of work in creatively. Forget the street thing, because the street thing is G math. Mathematics is who I become after coming home from prison. But Anthony is who I am. And I won't be mad at anyone who still calls me mathematics. The change is not for them. The change is for me. But I am Anthony, you know. And going back to the nation of gods and earths, let me just say, not going back to the gods and earths, going back to my transition at 13, 14 years old into a lot of things, I started becoming something else. I started not being who I truly am. Maybe it was for what was happening at times and to be able to deal with what was going on during those times. You know what I mean? The late 80s and early 90s was a wild period in New York City. And so, I wasn't strong. I was a follower. My son is the total opposite. My son is a leader and he does his own thing. I wish I had what he had. He has. But I was a follower. And I didn't know who I was. And so this person now is who I truly am. For the first time since I was 13 years old, I can say that I'm happy. I haven't been happy. You would think that I would be happy when my son was born. I wasn't happy. I was proud, but I wasn't happy. If I was happy, I wouldn't have went to prison when he was 3.5 years old. So for the first time in my life, I am happy. And so Anthony is happy. Not the caricature of who I became. A lot of that was survival. A lot of that was my influences from my OGs, my real OGs, not the fake OGs as I spoke upon in 1993. I have a phrase for them. But not those OGs, my real OGs. Dupreme being one of them. And so tomorrow I'm actually having lunch with Dupreme and BK to tell them what I just told you just now. And to have that conversation. Me and BK had that conversation already, and he gave me his blessings. There's a guy by the name of Shy B who writes for The Source. Me and him had a conversation because he was wondering, I had wrote something on Facebook, and he was wondering like where that came from, and I told him my testimony. I've been saying my testimony to a lot of people. I am proud of my change, and I'm proud to say that I believe in God and I believe in Jesus Christ. I have faith. I never use that word or belief. I have faith now. I have belief, you know, and it has changed me, you know. Besides that, the fact that I stopped smoking weed also. And for the people who may who's wondering why I stopped smoking weed. The reason why I stopped smoking weed is because I have anxiety. Clinically, I was diagnosed. This is not some self-diagnosed shit. I was diagnosed as anxiety, panic, panic attacks, and also manic depressive or manic depression, bipolar, aka bipolar. And so the weed wasn't helping me. The weed was making me aggressive. It was making me impulsive. It heightened my anxiety. And so I had to make the decision, am I going to still smoke weed or am I going to stop? Because what the weed did for me, for a lot of people, weed makes them laid back, chill. For me, it makes me aggressive. Back in the days, we used to say to people when you was smoking and getting high or got high, when they like interrupting that or they're disturbing that, you be like, yo, you fucking up my high. I was like that permanently because I was high permanently all the time. For a person who sold weed, I was constantly high. Almost could say 24/7, if not close to. So a lot of my aggression was coming from that. And so if I disagreed with someone or if somebody said something I disliked, I spoke off the top of my head. That's the impulsiveness. And so now that I stopped smoking weed, I don't have that. I have a second of space of time to think before I speak. But when I was under the influence, I didn't think, I just did. I just spoke. And so weed is not something that made me laid back. Anxiety-wise, it made me get into my head even more. So if I had problems, a bill, whatever, I'd be in my head crazy. Like I'm really like, yo, the bill is due. Yo, I gotta pay for this. Yo, stuff like that. And now I go through the same problems now without the anxiety part. Do I still have anxiety? Yes. But am I stuck in my head? No. I'm not stressed out over that shit. I handle my business. And so it took me out of my head. Pause. Weed, let me say this. For my DNA, drugs don't mix. You know how they say this person shouldn't be doing drugs? I'm that person. And so I even stopped drinking coffee because I don't know the reaction of how my body takes to stimulants. And this is not because of spirituality. This is because of science. My body doesn't react good to outside stimulants. Mentally, some might even say physically. When I think back on like the crimes I did, very impulsive crimes, very on the spot type of things, not stuff that I planned out or things like that. Stuff that I did on the go, like right there on the spot. And so I handle things much different now than I did before. So the weed thing wasn't gelling with me. And so I just want to say that. And maybe if I was in a better space where I can enjoy the high and not have the problems that I have, which I don't think you're never in a place where you don't have any problems. Maybe I could see it, but I don't see it in no near future. Because we always have problems. I might be in a relationship with a woman and we break up, and I'll be stuck in my head, stressing out, crying, fucking, oh, woe is me type of thing. And that's not me. Do I go through anxiety? Yes, but not at such a high level. I have been maintaining my anxiety now, and I'm not on any medications or anything of that sort, but I've been able to deal with problems now. I still have problems, but I'm not in my head no more. And weed put me into my head. Pause. So that's the reason why I did this, I titled this episode From Saul to Paul, because I am now going from mathematics to Anthony. And Anthony's a different person. Mathematics or GMath was my how it goes, Jekyll and Hyde. He was definitely Hyde. I'm not that person no more. Or if it does exist in me, I have control over it now. I am Bruce Banner and not the Hulk no more. And it's very hard. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't been the Hulk in a while. So I know whatever is happening, whether it's spiritually or it's the bud, it's happening. I've been in places where I felt a certain way and I didn't react as I did in the past. I have full control over my emotions, over my actions, which for a long time I didn't. And I probably hurt a lot of people turning to the Hulk. And so a lot of those people is who I had to make amends with. Now let's get into some other stuff, man. I have a couple of things that, life has been good. Life has been good. I've been going through a lot of positive things, man. And as I said earlier, I work now. I have 2 jobs. One of my jobs is I'm a cook for Chicken Guy, which is a Guy Fieri restaurant. I work on 42nd Street for that job, and I'm a line cook. Whoever thought that I'd be a cook? Well, for some of y'all that may not know, I went to cooking school. I also worked as an assistant baker. I love cooking. I didn't figure that out until recently because my mother had became ill a couple of months ago, and I had to cook for her. And I was cooking like real meals, and I cook well. It's just that I was in this microwave world, microwaving everything, and I guess I was saying I didn't have enough time to get into the culinary stuff when I'm into the business things. So now my mother kind of, she even said, maybe you missed your calling. Maybe that's what you really supposed to be doing. I have plans for cooking. I'm not going to say it yet, but yeah. I'm a cook at Chicken Guy. Dope job. How I got the job, I put a post on Facebook. I was like, yo, I'm looking for work. My homegirl, The Choice of New York, who I worked with at Lyrically Live, her show on DTF Radio, she got me, she hooked me up with a person who was hiring, and I got the job. Okay, that was one of the moments too, sidebar, that was one of the moments of my stepping into spirituality too, because when I went to the job interview, I really haven't had a lot of job experience as an adult. And when I went to the job interview for the past 2 years, I was looking for work, and I was getting everything was just shooting me down. But when I went for this job interview, I got kind of tired of being shot down. And so when I went there and we was having a great conversation, and when it was time for me to pass my resume, he went to grab, the person went to, grab my resume, I held the resume. I said, can I say something before you look at my resume? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. I was like, honestly, I don't really have a great resume. I haven't really worked like that. I had a few jobs here and there and stuff like that, but I don't really have a great work experience, and I think that it's been working against me. But I will say this, I'm a hard worker, I learn quickly, and whatever I do, I'm going to try to be the best at. And guess what he said? You're hired. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so that was really for me, that was one of my moments where God stepped in. Now, people may say, gods and earths, may say, no, you did that. Yeah, I physically did it. But something higher than me put that thought into my head, and I just executed it. And so that was pretty much, I'm not gonna bullshit with you. That was the first moment that I really realized that it's something bigger than me. It's something bigger than me. That was the moment. And so I've been working at Chicken Guys since February, and great job. I love the people there. Great energy. There's some people who I don't get along with. I'm not gonna say I don't get along with, but there's some people that rub me the wrong way. But not enough for me to come in sad or angry or anything like that. I come in happy every day. I speak to everybody. Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? I know everybody, and so it's been positive. I also have a second job. And that came through my friend 1-2, aka Kathy. She got me an interview at something called Alliance. It's Alliance something, but I forgot what it is. We just called it Alliance. And I became a maintenance man at Noble. And which is a very difficult job. I clean the kitchen at Noble. And if you don't know what Noble is, Nobu, it is like a high-class, fancy schmancy type of restaurant. Top of the line. From what I'm hearing, De Niro have some ownership in it, and his wife, his ex-wife, I believe. It is on 57th Street. I'm next to Carnegie Hall. I'm blessed to have the job. Is it a difficult job? Yes. But it's a job, and it's an experience. It's an experience, and so that's my two jobs now. It's been kind of hard having these two jobs and still running S.STREET Media. I've been slacking on S.STREET Media and the Vandal Hour personally. But now I have a team around me with S.STREET Media that's been helping me move this situation to where it needs to be. And that's my AKA Promotions, her husband, Too Tough, Boogie Black. Shout out to them. They've been helping me, plan events. They've been helping me film podcasts. That's why I was having a podcast classes. They've been helping me, and God been putting people in my realm that I need to be around, and so we're a great team working together. And now she's AKA Promotion. She's doing her thing. Let me just say this: she's doing her thing, and so I'm blessed to have them around me. And look what I've been saying for like almost 2 years now, A Tribe Called Blessed. I've been saying, like, there's certain things that I could tell that I I was on a path that I didn't understand. It was happening before I thought it. And so I got the 2 jobs now. S.STREET Media is doing well. Is definitely regaining momentum. So, shout out to my S.STREET Media family. Y'all know who you are. I got a situation for y'all. So, a funny situation for y'all. Recently, I opened up a bank account. These are things that happen in Mav's life. I think I had a segment called Mav's World. And so this is one of the segments. These are some of the things that, been happening in my life. I went to open an account recently at a bank account, at a bank. And when I went to open the account and I'm sitting with the person who opens accounts for you at the bank, I forgot what they called, a conciliaire or something like that. And when I'm, with this particular bank, you join the bank online. It's not like some paperwork you fill out and stuff like that. This is done like online. And so while we're on my phone, she's helping me on, is a female. She's helping me on my phone, join the bank. There's a point in time that she had to go to like Google. And when she goes to Google and she's, looking for whatever she was looking for, do you know my searches came up and, like 2 or 3 times porn sites came up on my searches. I was super duper embarrassed. I'm like, and like it seemed like the more she typed the word in, the more porn sites came up. Blew mine. Crazy. So what I say to y'all is clear your porn. I said porn. Clear your Google searches, man. Clear your Google searches. I'm not ashamed that I watch porn, but I was embarrassed that she knew that I watched porn. So that was I'm talking about, this happened Tuesday. So this is very recent that happened to me. Another situation is one of my good friends from Williamsburg came home. My man Jason Johnson is home. He did almost 30 years. I am blessed to have my brother home. He's doing well. I might have spoke about him on Style by Poverty. If you follow me on Style by Poverty, my Instagram page, which is Style by Poverty LLC, we had a GoFundMe for him going on a few months ago. So he's home now. And it's a blessing, man. 30 years, at least 28, 29, 30 years in prison. He was sentenced to natural life. And so they let him go. So shout out to my man Jason Johnson, my brother, Also, as I said earlier, my living conditions. Last year in around November, December, my crib was raided that I was living at. Some activities was going on I don't want to go into, but the crib was raided. Now, here's another situation where God protected me. And I'm not making this a religious thing. You're not going to hear me keep saying stuff like that because I don't want to push nothing on no one. That's not who I am. Even with me not smoking weed anymore, I don't tell people, yo, don't smoke around me. I'm not that person, man. I'm not that person. So back to this situation when the crib gets raided. The night before, I have an electric bike, and the electric bike, the air had came out the tires for like maybe a month and a half or two, a month and a half or two, and I didn't fill the tires with air. The time that at that time also, I was sleeping in the studio a lot. I was on my grind heavy. And so I wasn't going home all the time. And this particular day, I wanted to go home. So I took the bike to the gas station up the block from where the studio's at, and I put air in the tires. I put air in the front tire, it filled up, everything was good, I checked it, The back tire, I put air in the tire, and when I felt the tire, the air was coming out. I filled the tire up again. The air came out, so I must have had a flat or something. To make a long story short, since I couldn't ride my bike home, and this was like late, I didn't want to go home. I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna go go back to the studio. I'll sleep in the spot, and I go home in the morning on the train. But that particular day, later that day, I'm with my interns. I had interns at that time. I'm with my interns, and I'm teaching them how to podcast at the time. And my phone goes off early. This is like maybe 1 PM. I never made it home that day. The following day, I didn't go home early. I sit in the office. I got toothpaste and toothbrush in the crib and in the office. I got a washcloth, all that stuff, soap, all that. So I continue on with the next day. And so when I'm teaching the class, my phone go off. And the phone goes off, it's my friend. He said, yo, they walking Cuzzo out the crib. The police is walking Cuzzo out the crib. The crib got raided. Now, another time that God steps in, if my tire wasn't flat, I would have been in the crib when it got raided. Another time that God was protecting me. Also, it shows you, and someone said this to me, that I was truly in my purpose. If I wasn't in my purpose, I would have been in the crib at the time. So just the irony of life, man. And that's how I lose where I was living at. Another situation that happened to me recently. I'm on a train. Recently, I've been carrying extra foods and stuff with me when I'm on a train so I could give out to homeless people who may ask for food and stuff like that, right? And so this particular day, a person walked through, a woman, a homeless woman, and when she walked through, she was asking for food. So I go in my bag and I pull out food and I give it to her. And so these 3 individuals, I don't want to say the race, these 3 individuals was like on a train too, and one of them, they was together, one of them gave her money. And when she went to walk away, he grabbed her by her arm and was like, say thank you. I didn't ask for that. And so when she turned around, she was like, thank you. I was like, we good. I didn't really make nothing of it, So when I get off the train at 125th Street, the same 3 individuals get off the train with me. And a black young female under 30 years old gets off the train also. So the guy is trying to talk to the girl. At the time, I'm reading my book, Necroscope, which I'm on like the 12th book maybe. If you remember, when I first started doing the podcast, I was on book 5. And now I'm on like book 12, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken about that. I'll let y'all know next episode, but I'm much further than book 5. The series got crazy. It's crazy. It's new stories now and all that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So back to the story. So when I'm waiting for the train, I'm reading my book, got my glasses on and everything, and I had a bag with me. And so the young lady, black young lady, was being approached by one of the individuals, the one who actually grabbed the homeless woman and told her to say thank you. That person. And so he's trying to talk to her, and I'm not really paying attention, but I'm paying attention, if that makes sense. And she's kind of turning down his advances. So he's getting aggressive though. And so he walks away. And then he walks back up to her and he tried to talk to her again. And when she tries to walk away, he grabs her. So I take off my glasses, I put the book inside the bag, and I go up to him and I'm like, yo, she's not interested. And so he looks at me crazy and shit like that. He don't say nothing. And he lets her go. And I go back to where I was standing. And so he proceeds to where I'm standing at. He walks behind me, not directly behind me, but he walks to the side of me, but behind me. I looked, I'm paying attention. I'm on point. And he's getting he's poking his chest out type of thing. And so I'm in motion now. Let me say this. I was smoking weed during this time. So I'm aggressive math at this point in time. And so he's sucking his teeth and all this stuff, eyeballing me and all that. And then he says to me, watch. And he pulls his book bag over and he's going into his book bag. I didn't give the dude a second to go into that bag. I rushed him. I did some move on him where I hit him in his throat. But when I hit him in his throat, I hit him so hard that he fell into the column of the train, by the edge of the train. There's, the columns that says the street name on it. And so I hit him so hard that he hit the column, his head hit the column like a brick. Boom. And he fell face forward, dead weight, and hit his head on the concrete. Let me just say this. My high disappeared immediately. I was like this, oh shit. The whole train station is looking at me. It's a moment going on. And so I'm like, I'm going to jail. And so I swerved off. The train comes immediately after that I had to get on. And I jump on the train. When I jumped on the train, I walked to the back of the car, and the other two friends was kind of waking him up, and I seen him move. So he's not dead. I'm not going to bullshit you. I thought I caught a body. And so, but when I went to Swervy back to the train, let me just say this, I missed this part. When I went to Swervy back to the train, the girl said thank you. And let me just say this. This isn't the first time that I've done something like this when it comes to a female on a train. And I'm not talking about just black female, white female with her son, a tall Russian-looking white woman on canal. This happened to me. Usually at the right place at the right time when it comes to stuff like this happening. And so another thing of me saying Saul to Paul. Saul was a warrior. Saul wasn't no weak dude. You know what I mean? And so that's why I attribute him to myself also. But yeah, so some crazy wild shit happened. And I definitely was nervous. I thought I was going to prison. And the whole train was looking at me. I was kind of how do I was like an animal in a cage, how the fuck I get out of here type of thing. And but yeah, that's something that happened to me recently also. What else? That's pretty much math's world. This in this show, I like to talk about things that I'm into, things that I may have seen, and I want you to check out. Number one, if you didn't see the Penguin new show on HBO, classical. It's a classic. The way that they did this show is fucking crazy. This wasn't no Danny DeVito Penguin. This wasn't that. This wasn't no comedy. This wasn't no, kiddish shit. This was they put Penguin in a realistic depiction. This was real. This is real. And if you didn't check it out, it's on HBO. I don't want to go into it, but a great series. It's the first season. Great series. Me and my moms watched it. I think we watched the first episode together, and then she went on her own time and watched it, and I went on my own time and watched it. A great series, man. I can't wait till it come back. So check out The Penguin. Also, man, there's a movie that my mom's, she's been talking to me about this movie for 3 months. And she kept explaining it to me yo, you gotta watch this movie. And I believe it's with Michael Keaton. And if you don't know who Michael Keaton is, it's the guy who played the original Batman when they first made it into a movie. Not the 1960s movie, but the late 80s movie. The movie name is called Knox Goes Away. Knox Goes Away. She's been talking to me about this movie for a minute, maybe 3-4 months. And she's like, you gotta see it. You gotta see it. And so one day when I was off work, I checked it out. It is a great movie, man. I'm just gonna give you the premise of it, man. It's about a hitman who gets dementia. A hitman that gets dementia. And so it is wild. I don't even want to describe it to you in detail because I'm going to fuck up the film. But it's about a hitman who starts to get dementia, a rapid form of dementia. So he's losing his mind immediately. Not, you know what I mean? So if you haven't seen that movie, I seen it on HBO too. A great movie. Also, man, recently I've been watching a lot of old television. I've been watching the Highlander series. If you don't know about the Highlander series, it's a great series. It's based off the movie, The Highlander. I'm a Highlander fan. I'm almost equivalent to like how people feel about Star Wars. I feel about the Highlander. The Highlander is about immortals, people who can't die. And they're born that way, certain individuals. And the only way that you could kill them is by decapitating them. And so the movie is like a couple of parts to it. One of the parts has Sean Connery in it, my Virgo brother. Great movie, man. Great movie. But they also made a television show. And I believe they brought it back more recent based on a female Highlander. So I've been watching the older one though, the old television show. Great show. Another show that I've been watching recently is News Radio, which is about a radio show, and this guy from like outside of, I believe it takes place in New York City. I believe. I'm not gonna, if you know, let me know. But I believe it takes place in New York City. And it's about this guy who takes over this news station. And for a person who's in the media like myself, it's interesting. Who has a radio station also? S.STREET Media Radio. Remember that. Check it out on live365.com. But as a person who's into media, great show. Seth Rogen, that's his name, the guy that got the show, the podcast, the guy from Fear Factor. Also, he is one of the characters. He's young then, real young. I believe his name is Seth Rogen. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. But it's an old show from the 90s. Great show. It's comedy. It's funny as fuck. I also been watching Newhart. If you haven't heard of Newhart, it's an old show from the 80s also. An old show from the 80s. It's with Bob Newhart. And it's about a guy who owns a resort in Vermont. And one of the some of the main characters, I'm not gonna say it's three brothers. The three brothers is like one of main characters in the show. And if you never heard of this, what he says? I'm Larry, this is my brother Daryl, and my other brother Daryl. That's where that comes from. Great show. And I've also been watching The Honeymooners on cable. Now, if you are a Honeymooner fan, they just released new episodes of The Honeymooners. Unreleased episodes. I've seen episodes that I've never seen before. There's even intros where they're singing in the beginning. Like they're singing like it's almost like they, if you know how the Honeymooners is filmed, it was based off Jackie Gleason's variety show. It was a segment on his variety show. So they're taking more of the segments from the variety show and making and made them into episodes. So he actually leaves Brooklyn, and there shows that he's going to different places in the world. The Honeymooners actually leave Brooklyn, which you've never seen before, and he's traveling the world with Alice and Trixie, and I always forget his right-hand man name. But yeah, so if you are a Honeymooner fan, you gotta check it out. I'm going to get ready to end this episode because I don't want to make it too long. It's already been an hour and a half. I'll be back maybe in a week or two. I'm definitely coming back no more than 2 weeks. I'm coming back with a new episode. I already kind of got the idea what the episode is going to be about. But before I close this show, hold it for a second. Let me get this ready before. So before I close this show, I used to say today's mathematics, and I'm for people who the gods and earths that follow me. Today is the 13th. So today's mathematics is knowledge, understanding, or being born to culture or freedom. Knowledge is to look, listen, and observe. Understanding is to see things clearly for what they are, not what they perceive to be. It is the best part. It is the black child. And culture or freedom. Culture is a way of life. Freedom is to free your mind mentally as well as physically. So I'm going to read something real quick to end the show. So this is from the Daily Bread. Let me show you. This is from the Daily Bread, and it's something that deals with what I've been going through. The title is Unfathomable. Fathomable. God, I'm saying this word wrong. Unfathomable. I know what it means, but for people who know, I got a speech impediment. I always say that. It's the truth though. Unfathomable. That's the word. Okay. Unfathomable. Look, I'm messing up again. So, yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about. In February 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope made another remarkable discovery. Beyond where humankind had previously been able to peer into the universe, it discovered 6 new galaxies. This discovery upended much of what we know about space. One astronomer remarked, "It turns out we found something so unexpected it actually creates problems for science." An astrophysicist said, almost apologetically, "There is nothing wrong with not knowing." Wait. All right. With not knowing. It seems that God continues to surprise us all. The prophet Isaiah, long before the advent of space telescopes, seems to be talking directly to the scientists of today. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Which is in degrees also. The Lord is the creator of the ends of the earth. Isaiah 40:28. He goes on, predating that astrophysicist's words. God's understanding no one can fathom. And that's the word correctly, fathom. But if we stop there, we miss the beauty of this passage. He who is unfathomable, let me say this correctly. Fathom. He who is unfathomable is not impersonal. He who creates those 6 galaxies and all the others is the same God who gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. The God of the universe is also the personal God who helps those who hope in him to soar on wings like eagles. Rest assured, the unfathomable God is the one we do know, the one who speaks into our lives with power and strength. What does it mean to you to think of God as unfathomable, yet personal? How is he personal to you? Fathomable. That's one of them words. Wow. So yeah, that's a passage from our daily bread. I'm still going to say today's mathematics, but I'm also going to be saying something from the daily bread, reading something from the daily bread. I hope you all enjoyed hanging out with me. It's been a while. Make sure you tap in with S.STREET Media on Instagram at S_Street_media. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't be a ghost follower. Don't be a ghost rider, aka a person who doesn't interact or who doesn't follow us. You just watch the content. Be a person that makes themselves known, man. We want to know who's supporting us. We want to know who's the people who's in our corner, man. And so thank you to everyone who has been supporting Style by Poverty, the Oddcast. I got a lot of new subjects I will be attacking, or a lot of my life story that I will be I will be opening up to y'all about. Again, this is an audio diary. This is my audio diary. So this is real things that's happening in my life. And I want y'all to know who Anthony is, but who's mathematics, who's Knock 718. I want you to know who these people are. And they all are me, But a lot of people don't know who I am. So this podcast gives you a chance to enter my mind for a little bit, enter my experiences for a little bit, and see the things that I've gone through, and maybe you could learn something from me as I learn from other people. That's what this is about, man. And so when I created this podcast, I created it really for my son Elias, so he could have a testament to who I was, just in case I'm not here anymore. But it's also for people who are creative entrepreneurs, people who are into the things that I'm into, people who are going through things in life and don't have the answers, and maybe my experiences can help you out. You know what I mean? Because I learned from other people. I learned from other people's experiences. I watch people's podcasts about them, and I learned things that I may not knew about myself. So that's why I created this podcast. Thank you for the support, man. Again, make sure you get that Style by Poverty merch. We will be having it up on our Instagram page for sale. It's affordable. We are for the people as always. Again, tap into the old episodes, man. I've been watching my old episodes, and I'm not going to lie to you. I am pleased with the content that I have created, man. It's dope too when you go watch yourself and laugh, feel emotional, connect with that content. And a lot of people don't even watch their podcasts. A lot of people create stuff and they don't even indulge in it. But I'm not that type of person. I indulge in whatever I create. I wear what I create. If I have a podcast, if I create some piece of art, a business, I indulge in it. I'm that type of person. So, that's who I am. So thank you all for hanging out with me. I hope you all enjoy the show. Peace, and I am out of here.